You're listening to episode 984 of the Father Bills Podcast. Welcome back. This week's episode is being offered by Deacon Brett Edmonson, and he's offering the homily entitled, Choose the Better Part, given on the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, 2025.
Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part. I want to just think about those few lines with you guys for just a few minutes this morning. You know, I remember a few years ago, Bishop Barron commenting on this story, and he said, maybe, just maybe, Mary's struggle isn't so much that she's busy as that she's uncentered. So in other words, she doesn't have a root or an anchor in her life. And so it's easy for her to be whipped around by life's worries and demands and anxieties. And I was thinking, you know, that's kind of insightful because really I wonder, I mean, even if Martha had sat right down at her sister's feet when the Lord kind of admonished her, would that have made any difference? Or would she have just sat there, I don't know, fidgeting impatiently, distracted, squirming, worried about, I don't know, who's going to set the table? Is the bread done? Do we have any wine? Oh my gosh, I forgot to sweep the floor, right? So Martha's struggle perhaps is that not that she's busy, it's that she is divided, preoccupied, hounded by one anxiety after another, her attention flitting from one concern to the next. She has no center in which to rest, so there's no place for the peace that Jesus wants to offer her to catch hold and to take root. I was thinking about that this week. As many of you know, my mom died a couple of weeks ago. So last week, that's where I was. I was back home for the funeral. And Mom's death was kind of a shock for all of us. I mean, she wasn't sick. She was really active. I talked to her the night before she died. And honestly, guys, I had no idea that it would be our last conversation. It was kind of surreal to go home and walk into the house and see everything just laid out for the week, right? I mean, there was her planning book right there with all of her appointments for the week, right there on the counter. The fridge was full of groceries. She had obviously just gone grocery shopping. The book she was right in the middle of was laid out there on the coffee table, like she'd just be right back. My mom, she led a busy life. Even in retirement, she served on board. She volunteered at the food pantry. She mentored nurses. She tended her gardens. She brought home way too many rescue dogs that my sister would find. But that wasn't new. She had always had a lot on her plate. So raising a family and keeping a home and working full-time as a critical care nurse, sometimes it almost seemed too much. And I remember, like Martha, she could become preoccupied at times, rushed, anxious, wondering how to get it all done, especially when we were younger. What changed as she got older, and what was really fun for me to watch, was how in the midst of all she had going on, she learned how to invite the Lord more and more into the center of things. So prayer became kind of the anchor of her day, and I'm not talking hours, just a few minutes, each day, every day, intentionally. And it made a difference. Right, our conversations, we'd always talk about, when I would call, we would always talk about my siblings, or we'd talk about Teresa and the kids, or we'd talk about politics. She became a hopeless liberal in her old age. I don't know how that happened. But sometimes we'd have these delightful conversations about God, right? Or what she heard at Mass that weekend, or even a client that she had spoken to at the food pantry. She joined a Bible study and was constantly telling me what I needed to read next. She followed Pope Francis and Pope Leo. In fact, when Pope Leo was elected, she was the first one to text me, all excited because Pope Leo's brother lives right here in New Lenox, right? Most striking to me, though, was actually the way she died. So that Monday morning when my aunt came over, concerned because my mom wasn't answering her phone, she found her right there in her chair, crucifix on the table in front of her, rosary in her hand. That's how she passed. So Mom wasn't a saint, but in the end, she died the way she tried to live, at the feet of the Lord, in the company of Our Lady. So I was telling some of my colleagues this week that when I went home, it was with a bit of trepidation. Like many families, ours has its tensions, and funerals have a way of heightening those. Sometimes even funerals will bring out the worst in people. Well, friends, I have to tell you what a huge blessing it was to find almost none of that. Right? Past conflicts were set aside. My brother and my sister, they were tremendous. And the wake, what a delight that was. There was sadness, for sure, but mostly there was laughter and gratitude. I saw people that I had not seen in decades. Some people I had not seen in 50 years, you guys. And they all had stories. We always just knew Mom as Mom, but they had all these other experiences of her. Some funny, some inspiring, some touching, all of them heartfelt. And it occurred to me that, Mom didn't leave a lot of chaos in her wake. She didn't leave a lot of chaos in her wake. Maybe, just maybe, the peace she found with Christ in her later years, she was able to share with all of us. That was her parting gift. Friends, we don't have to wait for retirement to find that same peace ourselves. The Lord knows most of us aren't monks, we're not hermits, we're not cloistered religious. We lead busy lives in the world. We have families, we have jobs, we have commitments. Jesus comes to us anyway and says, I know you don't have hours. How about just a few minutes? Can you give me just a few minutes, just for today? Friends, can you do that? Will you do that? Will you share your heart with him for just a few minutes each day? It seems like a pretty small thing, but what a large return. Jesus says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give it. I take that to mean that true peace isn't found in acquiring enough or earning enough or doing enough or being secure enough, nor is it in being part of the right crowd or pursuing the right causes or having the right politics. In fact, it's not found in any human activity. True peace comes from having our heart attached to the Lord's and then living out of that center. And letting his words speak to the deep places inside and then shape our thinking and our speaking and our choosing, even in the midst of all our busyness. That, I think, is the better part spoken about in our gospel today. Mary discovered it. I think my mom discovered it. And it's waiting there for us as well. Choose the better part.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. I was struck that his homily also revolved around peace. And where does that true peace come from? It comes from dwelling with God. And that's a similar response, or you could say title or theme, that I spoke about the previous week. And of course, then Father Dominic spoke about the week in the beginning. It's kind of like we didn't really intend it, but it looks like a 3-part series that kind of seamlessly kind of goes together. Now, if you have any comments or questions, I encourage you to go to my website, fatherbill.org, and there, that's FRBILL.org, and there you can see what's going on in my podcasts, a blog. I have links to various Catholic websites, a photo page, etc., including social media accounts. In the meantime, may God bless you and have a great week. Bye-bye.